Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
In our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about harvest loss in fields. It's something that's just super important for farmers to pay attention to, but we run into the same problem every fall. We're always in such a hurry to get stuff done, and you know, the rain is coming, or I got something I got to be at on Saturday, or yeah, that's right, or snow's coming. So we hustle, but you know what? It doesn't matter when we finish. You know what matters is how many dollars we're bringing in. And if we have crop that's on the ground that we can't recover, that's not good. So one of the things we developed here at Ag PhD is a free harvest loss app for farmers. So Darren was just pulling that up on his phone before we got started with the show here. The key numbers we want you to remember are 2, 4, and 16. Darren, why don't you explain what those mean?
Well, depending on which crop you're in, what we advise for farmers to do is get out behind the combine and look at how many seeds are laying on the ground. We obviously want all those seeds to end up in the grain tank and back home in the bin or to town at the elevator. But if we've got some kernels that are laying out on the ground, we can't pick those up anymore. It's totally lost. So when we're looking at corn, if we're behind a corn combine in a square foot, if we have 2 kernels of corn, that's 1 bushel of loss. So if we had 10 kernels of corn in a square foot across our whole field, that's 5 bushels per acre of loss. That's a huge economic loss for a farmer. So we've got to be careful to set the combine right so we don't have that problem. In soybeans, the number is 4 kernels per square foot to equal 1 bushel of yield loss. And in wheat, it's about 16 kernels per square foot, equaling 1 bushel of yield loss per acre.
Well, once the farmer identifies, hey, there is a loss issue I'm having out here, now the next thing is to figure out, well, where is this loss coming from? So that's why we always tell guys, go in front of your combine and throw your little square down and see what you're seeing for loss in front of the combine. So in other words, was the loss already in the field before you got there? Then we want to find out, is that loss at the header or is that loss coming at the back end of your combine? So that's where you have to play around with your combine just a little bit, stop, back up, check that. And all we're trying to say is we know we've got a problem. We just need to do everything we can to fix that problem, figure out where the problem is, and stop it from happening from now on.
Now, you may say, well, wait a second now, what do? Bring a tape measure with you and measure out a square foot behind the combine? No, we just made a simple little device. Some guys will make them out of wood. We made ours out of PVC pipes, and we just have a square foot that we can just throw it out, drop it down on the ground. What a lot of guys will do is they'll drop it down and then they'll drive over the top with the combine so then they can measure what's left in there. That's fine to do. You can do it and then just drive so your header's over the top of it. Then you can see what's lost. You can back up and see what's there. Or you can let the whole machine go over and see what your total loss is.
Well, you have to do both. Yeah, you have to do both. So that's the whole thing. That's what I was getting at. There are 3 parts to this. It's in front of the combine, the header, and then what's coming out of the back end of the combine. But as a non-farmer, you may not have ever even thought about this before, but it's something where, you know, a farmer has this great crop out there, but unless he does the right job and has his machine set properly, he's not going to have the yield that he's looking for. He's not going to have the profitability that he could have had.
All right, so let's just say that you're interested in figuring out exactly what your economic loss is per acre. And this is one of the reasons that I always bring my smartphone with me. You know, in my pickup, I've got this PVC pipe square to do my 1 foot calculations out in the field. I've also got a shovel to do a little bit of digging. But then my next most important tool, and probably the most important tool, is my smartphone. And so I pull up the Ag PhD Harvest Loss app and I look at corn, for example, and I say I'm finding 8 seeds per square foot. And let's just say the crop price is $5 a bushel. Well, how much am I losing? Well, according to this, I'm losing 4.29 bushels per acre, and at $5 a bushel, that's a loss of $21.46 per acre. Now you say, I'm getting 100 acres done a day. Well, you take that number times 100, and all of a sudden you're losing $2,146 a day from harvest loss for the combine. Is it worth another couple $1,000s to try and make some adjustments on the combine to try and lessen that loss or eliminate that loss? Absolutely. And especially, you know, as you're getting started into harvest, get the combine set right, and as conditions change throughout the year and as crop starts to dry down, you're going to have to make some adjustments along the way. But there is so much loss that you deal with at harvest time if you don't have things set right. And then the next part about that is when I'm losing these corn kernels or soybean kernels or wheat kernels out in the field, that's going to be volunteer corn or volunteer soybeans, now I have to spend more money next year to try and kill those because there'll be weeds in my next crop.
So there are a lot of ways to look at this thing. The main thing we want you to focus on, if you're a farmer, is preventing harvest loss, and if you're a non-farmer, is just understanding some of the work that goes into this. As farmers, we really have to struggle to make a great crop, but at the end of the year, we can't mess it up on the very last day. We have to really invest the time and effort to get our machines running properly. And also, I guess we would encourage you, download the Harvest Loss app. It's a free app from Ag PhD. You can get that either on your smartphone or your iPad.
Well, the other thing that you may have a problem with in your fields this fall is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?